basis, even if the promoters of the yes are saying that this is going to be lodged with the United Nations.
Yeah.
Well, the Lisbon Treaty itself says that the supremacy is on the European Union Court of Justice. So what value lodging these things with the United Nations has, I don't have a clue.
Yeah, yeah.
The Baroness Kinnock, who is the Minister for Europe for the UK, said, responding to concerns of the countries who, in theory, are not getting these guarantees, so the UK, for example, she said, well, these guarantees, will not be incorporated into the treaty. The treaty will not change. So these guarantees, in best of cases, will be put into a protocol which will be added to the treaty when a new country comes into the European Union, which may never happen because the next one would be Croatia, and there's a significant concern about what's going on in Bulgaria and Romania, and now the controls for Croatia are becoming pretty hectic, so to speak.
And there's talk about Turkey even eventually joining as well, right?
Yeah, well, but this would be after Croatia, I would think.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I heard recently here, well, I can say Sweden, who currently holds the presidency for the European Union, and our Prime Minister up here, and the Bilderberg member, Fredrik Reinfeldt, said recently that if the Irish votes no to the Lisbon Treaty, they intend to move forward with the Nice Treaty. Do you know what this means and what the consequence of that would be? I don't know too much about the Nice Treaty. I guess it's just a precursor to the Lisbon Treaty. Is that correct?
Yeah. Well, what they say, I'm not an expert either, but I have more or less read this. And basically, the Nice Treaty gives voting rights, which are different from what the Lisbon Treaty gives. So it give a weight in the votes, bigger voting weight to the people, the countries who have more population and higher GDP. So it's the countries who also contribute more to the European Union. And basically the theory is that the Lisbon Treaty is trying to resolve managing a group of 27 or more countries, which the Nice Treaty doesn't provide for. And therefore, it has to do a bit with the administration of the Union. And they say the Nice Treaty will not allow to handle 27 or more countries. So if they wouldn't ratify this, we will go on with this Nice Treaty. In practice, the only change would be the voting weight, really. And this is what probably concerns the biggest contributors. They are the ones who are nervous because with the Lisbon Treaty, they are gaining voting power, whereas the small countries or the ones, let us say the ones who have been recipients, they will be losing voting power, voting weight. And this is, for me, the key element here. The big countries are very nervous about getting this ratified because they want to correct a situation which they think is unfair. And at the same time, the small countries can see that with this Lisbon Treaty, they will see their voting rights reduced.
Yes. Do you think that they will continue to push the Lisbon Treaty on the Irish people? If there is a no now, the second time, will they do a third, a fourth, a fifth, and so forth? I mean, this could go on and on forever. Or will they in some way, do you think, try to circumvent the Irish vote? Can they do that?
I think they will. I mean, I think they will put pressure with certain economic benefits or whatever. They will find a way to really pressure the Irish people. The problem is that if when I spoke to the Irish people, I said this, you don't have to think that if you vote no, the pressure is going to go away.
No, that's right.
Pressure is going to increase, but at the same time, they expose themselves quite strongly,
Yes.
And the Irish would vote no, and the people are already angry that the Irish are being asked to vote no, to vote again. And if they would see that they asked the Irish to vote a third time, and if they would see that to pressurize them, they try to sort of limit certain benefits they are getting from the European Union, or to impose sanctions, then the people would be very concerned in other countries.
Yes.
And they would, it would be the undemocratic type of arrangement would be more exposed. And you have to remember that the French population and the Dutch population voted no to this constitution.
Yes.
Which is the same as the treaty.
Absolutely. So, they revamped it, and what they basically did, as I can see, was that they now they want to implement the same things but through stealth this time. I mean, people like Giscard d'Estaing, Valerie, who wrote pretty much the constitution, one of the architects, as they call it, of the constitution. He's been apparently saying a number of times that we need to put it under the radar, so to speak. We need to bring it in without the vote of people, because generally consensus is that people don't want this in the European Union, but they're going ahead with it anyway, right?
Yes, because this is their style. This is what I tell the people also. Having worked inside, they are like a bulldozer,
Yes.
They just go on, and they couldn't care less what the people say. That's the biggest problem of this European Union project. It has been developed, behind the scenes and against the will of the people. And I think that something like this cannot be long lasting, because at the end of the day, the people will react one way or the other.
And I think that the longer or the more, as you say, if we get a second no vote in Ireland, and the longer this process takes, so to speak, I think that will be beneficial for those who do not want to be a part of the European Union. But in one way, I don't know how your view on this is, but to me, generally around me, I see people don't have any clue at all what's going on. They never even heard about the Lisbon Treaty. And the question is, of course, how do we get people interested? How can we kind of expose this? What's your take on that, Marta?
Well, I have worked a lot on this. I have been to Ireland, and I, obviously with my experience and my stand, I have exposed quite a lot. But
yes.
It is not always enough, and I have to come back to my prior experience and say that when I was not in the European Union, I just couldn't care less what was going on, because I was busy trying to raise my family, to do my job properly, and deal with my own personal and financial and economic situation.
Yes.
So, and this is the life that most of the people have, really.
Yes.
So it's not that you have a lot of time to think about what's going on at the European Union level. But what people don't realize is that this European Union that they see so far is very near and is issuing 80% of the legislation that is regulating our lives.
Yes.
And this is something that people need to understand. Who is regulating my life? What is the nature of this animal regulating my life? What experience do they have? What trust can I put on them? What transparency do they show? How, honest and what integrity they have. So, and this, I can fully understand the attitude of the people, because I was like them before.
Yes.
But now I have been inside, and I think it is my mission to, publicize as much as possible what I went through inside, for people to understand, what this is all about. Really.
Absolutely, and you're doing a great job at that. I mean, again, as you say, this is about centralizing power, and what I see is that more and more power is being moved further away from us, obviously. And someone commented in another book I read recently with a critical view on the European Union is that if all the power is shifted over to the European Union as they're dreaming of, so to speak, then eventually our national parliaments would have to be kind of put out of what do you call it? Like they will have to be defunct in a way, because they won't serve a purpose anymore. Do you think that is what eventually is going to happen, or are we going to have two layers of political institutions above our head? First, the national, who really doesn't have any power, and then at the end of that, the European, who ultimately wields the greater power at the end.
Well, in the near future, it looks as if we are going to have these two